Show.
Hello, everyone. Hey, it's Lisa Graves here for the 5, 8 and a half. And today we have a very special guest, our executive producer, co-producer, Greg Olear. And Nadine is away this evening. And we are going to switch things up. So, we usually say, or at least it's me that says it, 5 stories, 8 minutes each, a chance to refuel. We slow things down to sip, reflect, and remember, you are not alone. Tonight, we're going to do something different. We're going to do one story, then another story, and then have open question Q&A from the comments and potpourri talking about issues. That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's what's happening. Okay, but before we start, because I've got questions for you, Greg Olear.
Okay.
What's happening? What are you doing? How's it going?
I don't know if you heard this, but the Dow is over 50,000. Believe it? It's so great. I'm so excited.
That was just a ridiculous moment in the hearing today. Which, by the way, actually, that's only because of the Magic 7, the bubble, the AI bubble. Most of the other industries are down or flat, and it is AI and related that is making this sort of creating this illusion. But the absurdity of Pam Bondi raising that in the middle of a hearing, largely about the survivors of this enormous sex abuse, sex trafficking scandal. It's just gross that she would even say that's what we should be talking about. Now we talk about it. This is the problem with the don't think of the elephant routine of these people.
Well, but it's just a joke, though. Now it's going to be a joke. It's like the Dow's at 50,000. You want to talk about something important, like people are going to go up at, dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to tell you that the Dow is at 50,000.
Yeah. That is going to be the punchline over and over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. That should be on her, like, she should carve it on her tombstone.
Yeah.
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 And that's exactly what they should do.
Yeah.
So I got that. The other thing is, I don't know if you, like, this whole J.D. Vance to me is really the great comic relief of this entire administration. I know that he's evil and he's a fascist and all this stuff. I get all that. But he's just so colossally bad at this.
Yeah.
He's in Milan for the Olympics, which anytime you're in a city that's hosting the Olympics, there's always like a lot of people around. There's a lot of traffic. Everything's snarled. This guy's there with like 1,000 security guards.
Right.
Motorcade that stretches all the way to Slovenia or whatever.
Right.
Our figure skater almost didn't get to the damn location because of his stupid motor. And it's like, dude, no one's trying to kill you, J.D. Vance. No one wants to go near you. Like, literally, we're not going to go near you unless we absolutely have to. People are recoiling from you in horror.
Yes.
You don't need all these people around.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia Maloney walked into this meeting with like 2 guys.
Yeah.
She's in charge of the whole country. J.D. Vance has his, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And also, like, the other part that's been ridiculous is the booze heard round the world, except in the U.S. on the NBC broadcast. Thank you, NBC. Thanks for censoring the revulsion that the rest of the world out loud expressed at all the venues. All 4 parts where the march was happening were, met with booze when JD Vance. Now, I always wonder, like, do I really have to call him JD Vance? Because this whole thing about pronouns and the attack on people calling themselves their names. And I seem to remember that he was first James Donald Bowman, then he was James David Bowman, then he was Jimmy Hamill, and then suddenly somehow he became JD Vance around the time he got married. Didn't take his wife's name though. That man, I mean, how is that even possible? I mean, not that you can change your name, but that's a lot of name changes. What's up with that?
It seems like, maybe once or twice, it's one thing if you're getting married, you change your name like that, but to change your name, the name that people are going to call you as a grown-up person, unless you're transitioning.
Not 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's
weird.
It implies a certain amount of immaturity, in that person. Like they're still in 3rd grade and they're trying to come up with a name for their D&D character or something. And they keep changing their mind every day.
That's a pretty advanced D&D game you had going on at 3rd grade.
Yeah. I
only encountered it in high school. I only learned about it in high school, but
oh no, we were playing it like 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. We didn't play it correctly.
No way.
We just had the books, we rolled the dice. And
yeah. That's the way to do it.
Cool names for the characters. That was the main thing. We just wanted cool names. So
when I was getting married, I decided to keep my name because I thought I'd had enough fist fights or being called Graves and cemetery, all the jokes that go with Graves that people think are funny. So I figured I would keep it. I'd earned the name. I was going to keep it.
Graves just makes me think of Robert Graves, which is
Robert Graves, the poet, and then the Graves who was in the original Mission Impossible TV series, the actor whose name escapes me right now.
I think wasn't he also he was also in Airplane, which we were talking about right before we went on. He was the pilot.
He was
the pedophile pilot. So therefore, probably the Epstein pilot. It all comes around.
It does. I actually at one point in 8th grade, Mrs. Shelnut, my math teacher, asked out loud whether my name was Groves, and I said no. No, and then I was basically called Groves for a whole semester because people thought that was hilarious. And then in college, in law school, I went to some liquor store, and the person, I was checking out with was like, "Oh, like Groves, like the winery," and I was like, I could have been saying all this time to all these people, cursing the Graves name. I could have been like, Graves, it's Groves, like the winery,
right.
But no, it's Graves. Yeah,
it's Graves.
It's Graves. That's what it is. Yeah.
Peter Graves. Thank you guys.
Peter Graves. Yeah. You're so good, Ellen Bloom. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jenny A. Yes. The gang in the audience. So other things to chat about before we jump into the first
that's what I got. I just, this has been such a brutal week, and I know we're tiptoeing lightly here, but this is supposed to be the midweek break where we refuel and refresh.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to go into a rage until at least 8:15.
I was in a rage a long time ago, hours ago. Yes.
I just, I don't know. It every week I say it can't get weirder, it can't get worse, it can't get crazier, and every week it does. I mean, you gotta hand it to them. You gotta hand it to them. They've got that part down, and it's not easy to do because every week they do something batshit. Like, I mean, we're gonna forget about the whole Obama meme thing. Which would be the first sentence in somebody's obituary if it was anybody else. So, raging Graves. Okay.
I'm gonna put Nadine's column, her interview, on that very issue into the chat. We'll get that out.
Okay. Yeah.
She was on talking about that. That just outrageous, ridiculous. Yet another ridiculous thing. Yeah.
It's all so ridiculous that it makes my brain explode. So, what did Elvis Costello say? I used to get disgusted. Now I try to be amused.
Yeah. Is that the plan?
I think it's something. It's some way to keep sane, which is all we're trying to do here.
Yep. That is exactly right. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say on this whole name issue, people need to call their members of Congress, call the Senate. to tell them not to vote for this SAVE. I'm not going to call it SAVE because it's a bogus acronym used to.
It's SAV, like the winery.
It's SAVE. It's SAVE. It's an absurd piece of legislation designed to make it harder for in particular women to vote. 70 million women changed their names when they got married. This measure would make it super hard for people to vote unless you had your birth certificate, your passport, your name change, and I suspect possibly certified, so not just a copy, which I think was just called out on the House floor as a poll tax by any other word, or an effort to basically repeal the 19th Amendment for most women in America and some men who
change their name 3 times.
Well, JD, I mean, maybe he's the target. Who knew? They don't want him to vote wherever he may plan to vote. I don't know. But call your member. And of course, the one Democrat that joined the Republicans in this fiasco of a piece of legislation to strip millions of Americans of their right to vote was Henry Cuellar, the man that Trump pardoned, hoping that he was going to switch parties. Didn't have to, just voted with the Trump loyalists on this abominable bill. So it's not too late. Anytime you have, tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, call the Senate. Doesn't matter, Republican, Democratic, tell them not to allow this bill to go forward and not to blow up the filibuster in order to have it go forward. So that's my PSA for today.
I like it. Can I ask you like a legal question? I know we're going to do this later, but so aren't states supposed to be in charge of voting? So how can a federal bill do anything or have any weight at all?
Well, it is the case that the Constitution does specify that the states are in charge of the process of voting. There has been federal legislation. For example, after Bush v. Gore, there was an effort to not address what actually happened in Bush v. Gore, which was the theft of the presidency by the Rehnquist court, by the Republican court, but an effort to provide some funding to change the way that the voting is conducted in the states and in theory clean up voter rolls, when in fact what happened in Florida, as many know, is that Katherine Harris bounced thousands of African Americans from the voting rolls in Florida in order to try to move that race to the column of Bush when she was the Secretary of State and was the head of the Bush campaign in Florida while W's brother was the governor. So that piece of legislation I've never been fond of because it was sort of a solution in search of the problem that didn't happen. Right. So it has had some benefit. So there has been some role, and obviously, certainly the Voting Rights Act, when it was passed in 1965, under in pursuit of Section 2 of the 15th Amendment and Section 5 of the 14th Amendment. Now, I did get very legal there for a second.
That's what we want.
Congress had the power to pass that to try to guarantee that these states and localities were not stripping away people's right to vote as they had through the poll tax, through literacy tests, and other maneuvers to try to block blacks from voting in particular. And now we're at the sort of inverse, where now this sort of neo-Confederate government, this neo-Confederate regime of Trump, is trying to use that power that was used to implement the 14th and 15th Amendments discussion of voting rights and protection of voting rights, and instead to use that power, that congressional power, to make it harder for Americans to vote, which is outrageous.
What happens if the states just ignore it? I mean, like, I go to vote and I walk 2 blocks and I go to the little gym at the middle school where everybody knows who I am because I've been voting there for years. Is somebody really going to go there that's been voting for years and sit and see someone they know there, and because they don't have a real ID, they're not going to let them vote? Or are they just going to let them in? Like, I feel like this is not going to work the way that they think in practice.
I think
even if it passes, which it shouldn't.
Yeah, I think in general it would not, but I've done election protection. For example, I was in New Hampshire doing election protection one day, a decade or so ago, and there were Republican poll watchers who were objecting to members of the military voting, claiming that they didn't know them. Are they sure that they really lived there, even though they had a driver's license? And so, there are small-minded people who will try to assert obstacles and get someone to cast a provisional ballot if they can't prove sufficiently their identity. And then those provisional ballots aren't counted until a couple days after the election. They're not counted until, in essence, there's this process for curing, which is part of what was happening last year in North Carolina, where the Republican candidate for the Supreme Court was lost. He lost like a big loser that he was, and yet he would not concede and challenge that election, through the state courts, through the federal courts. By the way, in his campaign commercial, he had that famous Dewey beats Truman newspaper headline on his bookshelf. It's that guy. And there was an enormous effort in North Carolina to make sure that people who were targeted by this Republican judicial candidate and his minions, who were tied to, of course, Cleta Mitchell and that whole racket from the right that has been determined to make it harder for Americans to vote, to try to make sure that people could, make sure that they could make their case that their vote should count. And an enormous impact of that effort last spring, which went on for months, denying the winner her rightful seat on the North Carolina Supreme Court. They were predominantly targeting military families who voted, absentee, voted by mail in North Carolina. But they, of course, were living abroad, serving our country. So there's no boundary for these people, for these regressive, anti-voting,
fascists. They're
fascists.
They're Nazis.
Yeah. So I would hope that there would be a lot of efforts by secretaries of state to prevent any effort to suppress the vote, any effort to make it harder for Americans to vote, any illegitimate effort like this. But there are also going to be fascists who are roaming around trying to make it harder for people to vote.
Yeah,
they're fascists.
Yeah. I think it's going to backfire on them. Of course, they're going to let it go. I don't even want to talk about Chuck Schumer. Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to
our
topic, which is Lisa Olear. So I wanted to ask Greg some of the questions from the Proust questionnaire, which I first started reading regularly as part of Vanity Fair, the back page of Vanity Fair. There's 35 questions. I won't do them all because I don't know if we've got time to do all 35.
Oh my
questions.
God, please no.
But I'm going to select some of them, okay. And we're going to learn more about Greg. So the first question I think is actually one of the hardest, but I am going to ask you. It's, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
I don't know. Because it's never. I don't think people can be perfectly happy.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I was going to say. There's a song that has made me quite happy lately as part of a future I envision, and it's an Irving Berlin song, I think, that was written in 1941. That's called "When He's Dead and Gone."
Yep.
Which we'll put a link in the chat because it really is. It's very inspiring about a future, through natural causes. That happens, and we are finally free of this demon. Okay, so but the other, let me ask you some questions that may not be as hard.
Okay,
they're pretty hard. Okay, who is the living person you admire most?
Lisa Graves. No, Graves. Graves, like the Graves.
No,
Graves,
you're
like
not supposed to say that. I didn't pay you for that.
These are difficult questions because I don't know. I'll go with Zelensky. I mean, I'm sure there's other people that I'm forgetting, but that's the first person that pops into mind.
Living hero.
Because I have Winston Churchill on the brain, and I feel like Zelensky is kind of a next gen Winston Churchill for kind of coming out of nowhere and leading the country there in a way that I think nobody really expected him to be able to do. And to the patience to have to sit in a room with all these assholes without throttling them. Yeah. I mean, it's saintly. Yeah. It's saintly patience. So that's just the first person that pops in my head.
Excellent. All right. What do you consider to be the most overrated virtue?
Virtue?
Yeah, what is the most
of the virtues? What are the virtues? I don't know what they are.
Well, that is an answer in and of itself.
I know the 7 deadly sins, but the
all right. What is
hope, and charity?
What is the most underrated of the 7 deadly sins?
The most underrated, I think, is probably gluttony. I'm going to go with gluttony. Probably. No, I don't know. I think. I have no idea. I think. What's faith? Is faith, hope, and charity? Are those virtues?
Virtue. I think faith is a virtue.
Isn't prudence a virtue? Prudence is a virtue. Yeah.
I should know what the virtues are before I ask the question.
Yeah. I think the virtue of this is not knowing the virtues. So
okay. All right. I'll take that. Let's see. I was going to ask you which living person you most despise, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure there's some widespread agreement about that.
No, I don't know though. I don't know. I think I hate Elon Musk more than I hate Trump.
Oh, fascinating.
Say. Yeah.
Fascinating. All right. Well, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
What talent would you most like to have?
I'm going to go with being able to fly. That's not a real talent though. That's not no. It's like a Superman thing. That's not a talent though. Let's see. I don't know. Something athletic, because I'm not terribly athletic. I don't know what. These guys are like climbing skyscrapers with, they're just doing that. Yeah. Yeah. That seems insane to me. And I like, why would you do that? I don't know why you would do that. But I guess parkour is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think parkour. I'm going to go with parkour.
Cool. That would be a cool skill. I'm going to diverge from the question.
Oh, wait, here we have okay. Humility. Thank you. Thank you, Slithy Toves. Was humility, kindness, chastity, temperance, diligence, patience, and charity.
Yeah. Which is most overrated?
I mean, what does chastity mean? That's the most overrated, probably.
Probably.
And patience is good. Maybe diligence.
That is a hard question. That's a hard question. Okay. So I was going to diverge and ask you, what superpower would you have if you could have any superpower? What would it be? This is not part of Proust's questionnaire. No,
you fly. I mean, flying would be the
flying.
Awesome
that is
thing.
Always fun. I don't want to know what people are thinking. Some people want to read people's minds. I do not want to read people's minds.
No.
I want to fly as fast as the wind anywhere that I could at any time.
Did you ever watch the show Heroes when it was on?
Yeah. Way back.
The first season of Heroes was so good because they had all these people and they had powers, and some of the powers were kind of like maybe not powers you'd want. And the guy who could fly didn't like it. Like he just was mad that he was a mutant and he was pissed off. And when he finally flew in the sky, it was just like, it was one of the moments in the show where you're like, holy shit, I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah. He needed the virtue of appreciation.
Yeah, virtue of appreciation. Now, Dark Phoenix of the X-Men did get so powerful that she had to consume a star, and then could kiss Cyclops without his glasses on.
Yeah.
I always identify with Cyclops because I always have to have my glasses on too. Although when mine are off, I don't shoot ray beams out of my eyes. So not that part.
I'm deeply relieved to hear that, Greg.
Yes.
Although, could come in handy, but not directed at me. Okay. Let's see. What is your favorite occupation?
Occupation like job or occupation like thing to do with my time?
I translate it how you will. Take it how you will. We have candidates for invisibility, by the way, in the chat. Just FYI. Very
invisibility. Stealthy. Invisibility would get weird real quick because you'd be, then you'd be invisible and you'd overhear something you don't want to overhear, or you'd see something you don't want to see. It would not be. I wouldn't want that so much. Although, it could be useful, I suppose.
It could be useful.
Yeah.
Favorite occupation.
Like occupation or thing to do with my time is just to putter. I like to putter around and, spin around. I like to have a block of time where I have 7 things that I maybe could do, but I don't know yet what I'm going to do until the moment comes. That's what I like the most.
Right. Nice. So you have options. Lovely.
I like optionality.
I've got a couple more for you here.
Okay.
Who is your hero of fiction?
Like my favorite fictional character?
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know.
That's hard. But see, I know you read so many. Look at all those books in the back.
But most of them are so flawed, though, aren't they? I mean, they're just flawed. I guess I'm looking up for inspiration here. Okay, well, this isn't necessarily the right answer, but is it Les Mis? I think it's in the beginning of Les Mis, the book, not the musical. They have there's this priest that's just kind of so holy that even the Bridgens leave him alone when he can go places where other people can't go because nobody will go near him because he's so clearly holy.
Right.
The way it's written is very cool. Not that I want to be so holy that I can't do that, but there's an honor there. Jean Valjean is pretty good too. Let's just go with that. Yeah, he's a good egg.
Good. That's good. I feel like I was always a Superman fan as a fictional hero character, but I have to say when they did the reboot of Wonder Woman and had all that training for the girls on the island and all and that movie was just fantastic, and she's just such a fantastic warrior that I have to say that the new version of Wonder Woman is my fictional hero.
You're going into you're leaning superhero here. So okay.
Yeah. I mean, if I have to name a fictional character, that's where I'm going to go with. Okay. So I'm going to ask you two more.
Okay.
Let's see.
Philip Marlowe is a good one, Ellen. That's a good one.
Yeah. I will say.
And James Bond. Duh.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. There's James Bond.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is a good one that you can do? Where would you most like to live? And then I'll give you a heads up on the last question, which is, what is your motto?
Where I would most like to live right now is not the United States. No, I went to Maastricht in the Netherlands. I guess in the fall, and I really liked it there. That was like a cool place. So I'd like to live there, maybe, or Barcelona, or Berlin, or there's a lot of places. There's no place. And my motto is, I think I'm going to go with the Andor motto, which is just try.
Nice.
Oh, the Bond movies are currently streaming. Thank you. I did not know that. Now I know what I'm doing all weekend.
Now I feel like one of my mottos, I used to have this as my chime for text messages. It's Yoda saying, "Do or do not. There is no try."
See, but I disagree with that. I think try is important, and I feel like the Andor manifesto is a direct shot across the Yoda bow.
Yes, it is. It is. We have our first disagreement.
I don't know. I'm anti-Yoda. Yoda's a dick.
Try is like hope. Yeah, actually, that's true. The Jedi could actually be much more direct in revealing the situation in advance. Mm-hmm. They're very inscrutable in that way, in ways that are not helpful perhaps they're helpful for the plot, but they're not helpful in the grand scheme of the good versus evil, plans, fighting the evil empire plans. They hold back. Mm-hmm. They hold back. Yeah. Yeah. My motto might be this one.
Live long and prosper.
Yes. That actually probably is my real motto. I can do it with both hands. I spent part of 7th grade summer learning how to, I had 3 goals. They were very modest goals for a 12-year-old. One was to learn how to shuffle a deck of cards with the bridge. Mm-hmm. That took a good month of shuffling. I learned how to whistle with my fingers in my mouth, which I won't demonstrate for the ear piercing of the listeners. And I learned how to do this and this.
Wow.
I was very ambitious as a 7th grader.
Like riding a bicycle. It's like riding a bicycle.
Yeah.
It never goes away.
Yeah.
I didn't learn to like snap my fingers until pretty late. I think I was in my 20s when I could do it correctly. It took me a long time to learn how to whistle, and I literally cannot blow a bubble with bubble gum.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we have to talk
about I can't be taught. It's I can't inhale a cigarette. It's just weird things I can't do. So yeah.
All right. Well, those are the questions I wanted to ask you, Greg. So thanks.
Okay. Thank you for those.
Thanks for playing along. Yeah.
I think the virtues of the So
there's like 35 questions. So anytime there's more.
Yeah. No, I don't. It's okay. Now we were going to do this, and I wrote down questions that are not the Proust questionnaire.
That's okay.
I just wrote down questions to tee you up here. Yeah. I didn't take like 8 years of French for nothing. Actually, I did.
Yeah, and that and a buck, as my grandmother used to say, will get you on the bus. All that French plus $1 will get you on the bus.
Now, I have questions here about Pam Bondi. I have questions about Clarence Thomas. I have questions about, I think we talked about the SAFE Act already, that we don't want to call it that. But we need to start with the most important question. I think this is on everyone's mind watching. This is probably why people are tuned in now. Did you watch the halftime show, and what did you think of Bad Bunny?
Oh my God. Okay. I had no idea who Bad Bunny was until Donald Trump criticized him. And then I was like, of course I'm going to love this guy, because anyone that Trump dislikes, I just think, that's got to be a great person. So I decided to just experience the halftime cold, meaning, without any prep, without any research, which is my usual thing to do. And I loved it. He was fantastic. He's super cool. I missed the Grammys. I know he won like the big award there. But he was fantastic. And the show was amazing. And it was just such a beautiful showcase of the, not the melting pot, but the amazing tapestry that is Puerto Rico and is our country, the best things about our country. I love the music. I was like, wait, that's Lady Gaga. I thought that was fantastic. And then, of course, Ricky at the end, like, I just thought it was fantastic. Although when I did a shout out to Ricky, someone said, if you recognized Ricky Martin at the end, you might be eligible for your AARP card. And I was like, no, but it's probably true. In fact, I've been avoiding the AARP for many years, but I'm well past time for joining. But I thought the songs were lovely. I thought including kids in the show was lovely. I thought the music was, as Dick Clark used to say, so great you can dance. It's great. Got to get great rhythm. You can dance to it. And the messaging, that was on the screen about love being greater than hate was fantastic. And just the whole vibe, the wedding, the proposal, the wedding, the everything, the abuelita, giving the drink at the, from the famous New York or Brooklyn establishment. Like, it was just joy. It was just lovely. And so, not a pox, because I wouldn't wish a pox on anyone, but like, seriously, the attacks on Bad Bunny before the halftime show, the ridiculous TPUSA nonsense with Kid Rock, and his really skeevy lyrics, etc. As the quote American alternative was a bunch of BS, and then the right wing pundits or politicians who were attacking Bad Bunny. It's like clearly they hadn't watched it, or if they did, like, they have no heart. It's like they're the Tin Man or something. They need to go get the heart because clearly it's missing. I don't think you could watch that without like tapping your toes and being like, this is pretty cool. And I think for me, it's the second best halftime show, with Prince being the first best of all time.
Okay, well, yeah, we're not gonna. It's a different whole. It's almost a different assignment at this point. Like, visually, I thought the one this time was absolutely astonishingly good. Starting with like all those little like sugarcane plants were like people inside there, which I didn't even realize till they started walking off. And he's climbing up on that telephone pole, the electrical pole, and I'm like, please don't. Is he like holding on? Like, I was afraid he was going to fall. And it just was great. I thought the whole thing was wonderful. And I did watch, not live, but I was curious, and I did see. It cut to the thing where Kid Rock was clapping to try to get the crowd into it. And it was so dead in the room, you could hear him go like it was awful. And he just turned around and left. But like, visually, the stage was so bad. It looked like, like in Office Space, how she has the flare. It was like that on a stage. It looked terrible. Yeah. And I didn't understand it at all.
Someone did a review where it was just like, I'm going to do the review for you, so you're going to watch it. It was like shouting, fire. It just had all like the structure of the whole thing was just not inspiring.
No.
It reminded me, because I think it was something like a half hour long, even though Bad Bunny only took like 10 or 12 minutes for this whole amazing extravaganza. It reminded me of this song. There's this song about Harrison Ford, and it's by this great comedian, and she, in partway through the song about running in Harrison Ford, she says, I bet you think that I've made a 2-minute song out of a 30-second encounter. And she says, you're wrong. I made a 4-minute song out of a 10-second encounter. And that's how I feel like, the Kid Rock show is like a 25-minute song about, to counter a 10-minute work of art.
It did not work. Somebody said on Twitter that basically Kid Rock is just another name for the Epstein's Island, which I thought was pretty funny.
Whoa. Wow.
Bad. Yeah. Pretty bad.
Had not thought of that.
No, it's pretty bad.
But there you go.
All right. So
it was The Rock that, Lutnick seemed to have to stop by with his family in tow. Just was
and the nannies. Why do you need nannies for these kids that are pretty old? I don't know, Howard Lutnick. What's going on?
Yeah.
So, okay, now we should talk about something serious.
Okay.
And this is what
you all tuning in for a midweek break. A midweek break. Yeah.
We're trying to do the break here, but obviously, I think every week this is almost like it's almost like a very choreographed Bad Bunny halftime extravaganza, where it's like every week a new person emerges from the morass of the Trump cabinet to be like, no, I'm the worst person in the world. And every week it's like a different, when it's Pete Hegseth and then it's Stephen Miller. And this is Pam Bondi week. That's all. It's just Pam Bondi's week to be horrible. Yeah. And she's always been horrible. Yeah. There's the story about the dog where she basically stole these people's dog and wouldn't give it back and then sued. She's a terrible, terrible person. A wretched person. And I don't think she actually felt bad at all today. I think she just doesn't give a shit. I think she's completely damaged and devoid of anything. But we all know this. We're all going to agree on this. There's nothing left to say, other than being a woman, you can say the C word and I'm not allowed to, but you're not going to say it anyway because you're Lisa Groves and you're too, we're not going to do that. So this is what I'm curious about, because you've worked and how all these institutions are supposed to work. So she's now the Attorney General. So she's in charge of the whole Department of Justice. What does that in principle on the day-to-day mean? Meaning, do the U.S. attorneys in the Southern District and these other places, do they have to go to her to get signed off on everything? How able is she to paralyze stuff? Obviously, she can start investigations that are predicated on bullshit. Can people quit if they feel like they're being told what not to do? How much purging has gone on in the department? Like, what's your sense of all that stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say that it was very inhuman of her not to turn around and apologize to the survivors in the room. I think an ordinary human would have turned around and said, I'm sorry. In fact, if she'd done that, it would have been the headline everywhere that she actually did it. Like it was stupid for her not to do that. But, because tactically it would have been the right thing to do, because they clearly made a massive set of mistakes. And some of it was deliberate in the sense of protecting Donald Trump at any cost while being very careless about the identities of the survivors of this horrific, multi-year predatory ring. But she couldn't, she's so venal and so determined to kiss Trump's ring at every turn that she could not bring herself even to do that tactically, let alone as a fellow human being, to turn around and say, I'm sorry. But the question of like, what is she like on a daily basis other than today? What is her job like on a weekly basis or a monthly basis?
How much power does she have? That's what I'm getting at.
Well, it's an interesting question, because on the one hand, she has important power to set priorities. So, the part of the power of the Attorney General is to identify what are the top priorities of the Department of Justice, what types of crimes, because it's largely involved in trying to protect, our nation through prosecuting federal crimes. What crimes are the priorities? So, when Ms. Reno was the Attorney General, one of our priorities was prosecuting gun crimes, making it, much more painful for people to use guns in crimes to try to, protect public safety. So that was a priority. And Ms. Reno used to say something like, if everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. And so, you really had to focus in on those priorities. Of course, the department has other responsibilities. The Civil Rights Division has a whole set of responsibilities that are now being negated by another former Trump personal attorney leading the Civil Rights Division. So the primary power of the Attorney General is to set those priorities and to make sure that the department is running well. She's doing neither of those things other than making it her priority to do whatever Donald Trump wants, to do his bidding. And the U.S. attorneys have a lot of autonomy no matter who is president, although Republicans have, tried to squeeze them more, as we saw in one of the scandals that erupted at the end of the first W. Bush administration into the second one, where they were trying to fire U.S. attorneys who were unwilling to make false claims about voter fraud, which was the, Karl Rove through line to the present moment of these constant nonsense claims about voter fraud as a way to help Republicans, assail election results. But in general, the U.S. attorneys have had a lot of independence, and there's an EOUSA, an Executive Office of U.S. Attorneys. That executive office is within the main Justice Department, and it meets regularly to inform the Attorney General of major cases that are going on, or major, policy changes that need to be addressed. It has not been the case that the attorneys general, have been directing prosecutions. The prosecutions are led in the field by the U.S. attorney, by the line agents, by the AUSAs, by the federal prosecutors. But what Bondi is doing is using the power of the Justice Department to basically be an errand girl, an errand woman for Donald Trump, and directing these U.S. attorneys or their substitutes to take actions basically in pursuit of Trump's vendetta. So you had the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia pursue ridiculous charges of sedition and the like against sitting members of Congress for daring to say in an ad what every member of the military academies are taught, which they're all taught, which is that it is unlawful to follow an unlawful order. You cannot follow an unlawful order. These are the Nuremberg rules. And so you have that happening. You had the implanting of this completely non-competent attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia to try to indict, James Comey.
Yeah, that works well.
Yeah, you had, who was not, who had no skills to actually be a U.S. attorney and wasn't actually technically, legally, lawfully the actual acting U.S. attorney because it was in violation of the statutory rules. You had a similar effort to try to pursue Letitia James for criminal charges. Again, charges that probably could have been levied at Donald Trump for some of his real estate schemes in reality, not at the actual attorney general of the state of New York for a second home purchase. Just really basically trumped up charges. You wouldn't have what's happened in Fulton County, Georgia, where the head of the FBI in Georgia apparently resigned or refused to cooperate with this completely, I'm going to say bullshit, this completely bullshit pursuit of the 2020 ballots, which have been counted and recounted and audited and re-audited by a state that has a Republican governor, a Republican secretary of state, numerous oversight mechanisms to ensure that Donald Trump, what the result was, that Donald Trump lost, even though Donald Trump had this very specific number of ballots that he wanted to, claim that, Brad Raffensperger was supposed to find him, which actually is the statute that was cited in this outrageous search warrant, is the very statute that Donald Trump should have been prosecuted and convicted of, which is trying to deny people their right to vote. So of course there's that. And because of the politicization of prosecution, you have not the U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Georgia, but they brought in a ringer from Missouri to come in, an AUSA from Missouri to come in. And he had just recently, surprise, surprise, had just recently been very helpful to who? Pam Bondi's brother in a piece of litigation. So he sort of, one might say they could have an opinion that he perhaps auditioned for the job of insider in that way. That hasn't been widely reported, but we'll get it out there. And then you have what's been happening in Minnesota, which is you had at least 6 federal prosecutors resign, at least 1 FBI agent resign. You had other fallout at Main Justice because the right thing to do and still to do would be to investigate and prosecute the man who murdered Renee Good, period. Yeah. She was turning away from him. He fired at her 3 times. One time, she was already clearly turning away from him, and then shot her in the temple from point blank range at the side of her car when he was in no danger whatsoever, and then said fucking bitch right afterward. That man should be prosecuted. He should be convicted. He should be sentenced and imprisoned, period, in my view. So, but what you have instead of normal law enforcement, you have Pam Bondi at the helm of the Justice Department, allowing this chaos to ensue, allowing people to act with impunity, without consequence, and allowing good people, ordinary people, people who have been leaders and have been ethical, like Tish James, like James Comey and others, being pursued with the force of the Justice Department because she is misusing and abusing that office. She should be impeached. If this Congress had any integrity, if it weren't in the hands of Trump loyalists, she would be impeached. If we had a better rule in the Senate for not having to have a supermajority, she would be removed from office. She should actually, in my view, be disbarred.
Yeah, but what's the thing? Okay, thank you for that, because that does clarify some things. It's just, I feel like people need to start charging people with crimes here. Like, I feel like Minnesota should just charge that dude with murder.
Yeah.
Just do it. Why do they have to? There's nothing to investigate. His name is Jonathan Ross. He fucking murdered her. We all saw it. End of story. Why do we have to do anything? How much investigation is really required here?
Yeah, I think they should too. And if the feds try to remove it to federal court, then fight like hell to prevent it from being removed to federal court. And get a Minnesota jury to listen to the evidence and convict him. I think there's ample evidence to find that he deliberately, intentionally murdered her.
I mean, what would happen? This is, I guess, another question. If the state of Minnesota sent like a couple of undercover agents to wherever this guy lives, and they just arrested him, threw him in a van, and drove him back to Minnesota to face sentencing, what would happen?
Well, he lives in Minnesota, and he apparently was the firearms instructor and the lead of the DHS efforts, sort of the lead supervisor of DHS efforts in high risk situations, which just goes to show you that they have probably the worst guy in such a position of leadership. And I suspect because he was a leader within DHS operations, that's partly why he just was able to leave the scene, that there was not someone above him on scene to order him to stay. Not that they would have, given the behavior of these agents acting like paramilitary freelancers in Minnesota. But he could be arrested. He could be held. He could have to bond out, or they could.
I didn't realize he lived in Minnesota. They got to arrest him.
But he might be living somewhere else. Who know? He might be staying. Somewhere
they should
else.
find him and arrest him and bring him in and do the thing and let them fight it with him already in jail. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think the civil suit. I await the civil suit too against him. And I personally would also like to see aggressive libel suits against the Trump administration for lying about Renee Good, for lying about Alex Preddy. Truth is a defense in a libel claim. They do not have truth as a defense. I would like to see $1 billion Trump, style suit, but actually with merit, against JD Vance, against these people who smeared these victims of ICE for smearing them. And if the damages aren't enough because they've passed away and it's not adequate, I think we should change our laws so that if government officials lie about American citizens, that they pay like a minimum substantial fee, that it cannot be like basically paid by the government, paid by taxpayers, and we take the judgment goes against their houses. I think we need to have a strict rule of liability. If the government is going to use the power of the government to smear American citizens, we need to change the rules to make sure that there are consequences for people who do so.
Malicious intent. There's clearly malicious intent.
Yeah.
The problem with that scenario is that what would happen is it would go to the Supreme Court, and your friends, your dear friends, John Roberts and company would be like, oh, we can't have this. When JD Vance spoke, it was an official act. So therefore we can't, you're not allowed to, or whatever shit they'd make up. So
that's what we need court reform. We need to reform.
This pivots into my next question. Okay. Clarence Thomas is mentioned in the Epstein files. Now he's mentioned in the context of some, weird tip that almost certainly isn't true, but he still mentioned. And maybe it is. Who am I to say? Sam Alito is buddies with that Paul Singer guy who stands to make a lot of money because of the Trump shenanigans in Venezuela, and is clearly plugged into that. There he is on Paul Singer's private jet, which, what did he argue? That it wasn't a jet, it was actually their domicile or something like that.
Didn't count. It was like a hotel, basically. Yeah.
He's got this big fish that he's posing with, and it's just so stupid. But there's a lot of talk of Kavanaugh in the Epstein files, where Epstein and other people are discussing
where Epstein is conferring with Ken Starr about his former deputy when Kavanaugh was Starr's deputy in the investigation of the Clintons, and having a little love fest in their communications between Ken Starr and Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah.
So, that's that. And then, your guy, John Roberts there. I don't know what the deal is with him. Maybe he has a second home underneath the island or something, because he's just so awful. I don't know what could be. But you mentioned the reform, but there's no ethics there. The corruption is so glaringly obvious that what I worry about is at a certain point, the legitimacy of the court is going to melt away. They're gonna decide something, and everyone's gonna be like, guess what? Fuck off. And people are just going to ignore them. And then the entire structure of rule of law will completely break down, which is exactly what the Kremlin wants, which is probably why these guys are in there acting like this to begin with. So, I mean, what do we do about this? Like, I know we expand the court, but like, is Schumer ever going to do that? They're funding ICE, for God's sake. Like, what can we do?
Well, I will say there is a new document that has come out that has a handwritten flight log for Epstein's jet that has the name John Roberts on it.
Yep.
But there's no clarification about which John Roberts that is. And I can say
a lot of John Robertses.
Having done the research on my book, I had to do a lot of work to do news searches so I wouldn't get all the other John Roberts, including the John Roberts who's a reporter. Has been a reporter on one of the main outlets. And so, we don't know. And there's been no response apparently from the Supreme Court about queries regarding that handwritten note. But I will say there's growing momentum for court reform. We have people who have never for years were opposing it or were blocking it, including Biden, quite frankly. In his beginning of his first year of office, he launched a blue ribbon panel to look at the pros and cons of reforming the court, which was really designed to really push back on people like me and others who were calling for court reform, who knew the court had been captured and we knew we needed reform. But then ultimately in 2024, he did embrace court reform. And so did Kamala Harris as the vice president and then the presidential candidate. Rahm Emanuel, who I have not been a big fan of over the years for a lot of reasons that I could go into, but let's just talk about the debacle on the ACA and how he tried to crush progressives and Medicare for all that sort of stuff. But he has been embracing court reform. Eric Holder, who's the former attorney general and former deputy attorney general, is supporting it. So we actually have a lot of people who come on board saying we're going to need reform of the court. Some of those reforms are things like term limits, which would have an immediate effect if we could get them passed. But the fact is that these Dems are going to have to pass court reform if they want to restore any of the rights that have been lost. Because as you point out, this court will strike down any measures that it dislikes, that are against its political interests, its political alliance with the MAGA Republicans, just as it's been doing all this past year. And so any issue that you care about, that you want us to get fixed, whether it's voting rights or poverty programs or educational or whatever it is, it cannot hold with this corrupted court until this court is reformed. We've got to reform the court as part of any substantive repair measure.
Yeah, it's got to be done. It's essential, because it's going to be game over. So somebody in the comments mentioned Dick Cheney, and there was a great tweet that somebody did. Like, I can't remember who wrote it originally, but they said like Dick Cheney isn't in the Epstein files, so he did what he did for the love of the game. That was it. That was the tweet, which I thought was funny. Yeah. I got one more question for you, and then we'll do the Q&A for the last part of the show. But okay. So I think Trump is trying to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. I think he wants to do that. I think she
wants him to do it. Right.
She definitely wants it, and he wants to do it. And it's like it's almost like a rom-com where they have to be in the same place at the same time and do like 7 minutes in heaven or something. But how would that work? Do you think? Like, first of all, do you think he would? How would he get away with it? What do you think the kind of response would be if he did that? Would that move the needle at all?
I mean, I think he wants to do it. And clearly his operative, his agent, Todd Blanche, was doing what the Dawn suggested be done with moving her out of the prison that she was rightfully assigned to for the severity of her crimes, instead of sent to, Camp Fed for puppy therapy and catered meals.
Keep Pam Bondi away from the puppy.
I mean, and Kristi Noem too, but
that's what I meant.
But both actually. Yeah. But I think given how toxic the Epstein/Trump files, which is really Epstein-Trump files, given how many times he's actually mentioned in those files,
1 million times.
Exactly. I think he can't do it before the midterms. If they lose the midterms and things are, the thing is all crashing and he's going to get, accountability is coming for him, I'm sure he's just going to pardon everyone. I bet he'll try to pardon himself. It'll be just like more pardon palooza than we've already seen. And that will just become the basis for multiple impeachment accounts against him.
Oh, good. Impeachment. That's going to work. Great. Third time's a charm. Third time's a charm.
Yeah, you don't know. But also, I think that some of these pardons are so corrupt, and that would be a corrupt pardon in my view, that we're going to have to reform the pardon power too, and actually litigate whether people who got pardons that were illegitimate, that were the product of corruption,
which is most of them. Even in the first term, there were so many bad.
Yeah,
just horribly unfair pardons. So, okay. And then, are you watching the Olympics at all? Are you an Olympics person?
I am. Okay. In fact, what's happened is I have discovered that on the app, there's a thing called live feed, or the feed from the stadium for the ice skating, for example, and you can actually watch the ice skating without any of the commentary, just the music and the skaters. And even though I like Tara Lipinski and I like, the sort of the crew, I'm not opposed to them as people. I just don't really care for someone talking through the music and the performance of the athletes. I would just like to see the athletes unvarnished. So it's been like such a joy to watch the live feed.
Okay, good.
What about you?
I have seen not any of it at all. Other than I stand corrected. I watched the booing of JD Vance. I did watch that. That was the.
Did you watch that on a foreign channel?
I don't know. It was on Twitter. I mean, we played it on the show a bunch of times.
It was exhilarating, actually. It really was.
And the announcer saying, "Oh no, oh yeah, a lot of booze. There's a lot of jeering," and that was better almost than the booze. Was the sort of honest. Is there hockey? Is hockey going to happen?
I mean, look. I mean, I have to say that the whole when Olympic skiing and snowboarding became like skiing down rails, and like the whole world changed. The level of difficulty of these athletes engage in is just beyond my ability to contemplate. Like I'm not a great skier, was never a great skier, but the idea of like leaping from the ground onto a rail, like, and then doing so, like, I can't, that just seems like inherently dangerous.
Yeah. I'm not going to do anything where I could get hurt, like I don't ski. I don't parkour. I don't try to climb Taipei towers. It's just not a thing, that I do. But
I used to joke that maybe I could curl because there's the sweeping happening, but in fact it's a very challenging sport. And the team from Duluth, way up here in northern Minnesota, won the silver. So
nice.
that was very exciting, and the Duluth Curling Club was on screen, so that was kind of cool.
Okay. I watched there's some show called, I forget what it was called, about like it was a documentary where each one was about somebody who lost really badly in some sporting event and how they coped with it. And there was a guy that lost in the curling that wasn't supposed to, and he basically drove himself insane, but then figured out a way for team curling that he would win every time, like manipulating the rules so much so that they won, and then they had to change the rules to allow for this thing that it could.
That's some determination.
It was the most I'd ever been interested in curling, which just seems to me like, I don't know, like, why don't you just go clean somebody's house? At least you get paid for it.
It's like bocce, but it's like pool, yeah, because you're like, it's angles, it's it's like bowling, but if you could actually go down the slick wooden surface,
that part does. It would be fun to do the bowling down the slick.
Yeah.
So
it's but I have to say that my ability to watch sports that I used to consider to be boring has grown as I've aged. Like I'll watch golf sometimes, even though it doesn't seem like the ultimate spectator sport for TV.
I never understand the the appeal.
But basketball, football, all these, anyway, I do think that the athletes are amazing, and I've been really glad to see, and we'll talk about that, but we might have to do the Q&A, the audience Q&A on another time, or we could extend the clock. What do you want to do?
Let's take like a question or two, and then we'll go, just because we said we would. Yes. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions in the chat?
Preferably yes or no questions would be helpful. No, I'm just kidding.
You can't trust me. You can't trust me with a non-yes or no.
I'm not dissing curling. I just don't understand it. I'm admitting it.
I think it's more interesting, and there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, as they say.
I got actually watching that documentary. I walked away with a big appreciation of it for sure. So
yeah.
Let's see. I heard about the Bondi dog story, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Wait. Do I think Bondi will go to jail?
Oh, did you play sports? That's a question for you, Greg. Did you play sports?
No. I was in the plays. I was a play kid. Although I will say I could have been the quarterback on the high school team in my very small, very not football oriented high school, because I'm good at throwing a football, and that's all that I'm good at athletically, which is not helpful. I'm like short and slow, and
I love playing basketball. I played basketball as a contact sport. I was I consider myself to be a great rebounder, and I had a lot of steals of the ball because I've got unusually long arms, but I was not great at the offense part of basketball. I did not score a lot of points. But,
that's fine. You need people to these trophies behind me are for winning the coaching the championships in girls basketball. So
nice. Oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I found that at that level, 5th, 6th grade or whatever, the boys need to be taught to calm down and not fight each other, and the girls have to be taught to fight each other more, like to be more aggressive and especially on defense and stuff like that. So are you tall? How tall are you?
I am 5'10", but if I had 2 more inches, I could have been a contender. I had an offer of a basketball scholarship, but I used to love playing football and flag football and other tackle football. And I was going for a touchdown pass. I actually was going for a touchdown pass, and this freshman clipped me. And instead of rolling and falling, I stretched for the ball, and I hyperextended my ACL, and that ruined my chance of playing basketball in college. But I could have been a contender. Yeah.
I'm going to say that, but they would have taught you how to shoot,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would. I mean, I was good at, I was pretty good at the free throw because you could practice that, but I did have performance anxiety on the, I was good at passing. I was good at assists. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. This is interesting information. the basketball information.
Oh, well, so, the other part of that basketball story is when you say you're coaching like 5th graders or 6th graders, my very first basket was for the other team. I rebounded the ball and all I heard was
went up,
shoot. And I shot and I made it. And I was so excited. And it was for the other team and I got benched and had to really focus in on which side of the court is mine. I learned that lesson. I know which side I'm on. But first basket for the other team.
Yeah, no,
that happened.
I believe that. I think everyone's done that at least once.
Yep.
I think it's.
I was so excited. It was the whatever the phrase was from CBS Sports. It was the joy of victory and the agony of defeat in like 1 second. Yeah.
The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Yes.
Oh God. Okay, so those are good questions, guys. Thank you for those, and thank you everybody for watching. All right, we're going to turn this off because now it's time for the thing for the for the glass half
5, 8.5 for the glass half full.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got. Do you have your glass? Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So today we toast the Olympians who are answering questions honestly about their love for the ideals of America, but recognizing and refusing to whitewash what's happening in this country. And so, it's not easy in that environment to necessarily say the truth or not dodge the question. But we've had, Olympians stand up, speak up, including one of the curling guys with the curling team speak up and talk about the importance of the Fourth Amendment and the First Amendment and how they're being abrogated and attacked and assailed in Minnesota. And I just want to say, let's do a toast to all of the Olympians who've been so good, so devoted to showing their excellence, but in particular to the Olympians who are standing up for the ideals that we all root for. Here's to them.
Cheers, cheers. Yeah, it restores one's faith in humanity to some degree, in American humanity.
Yes.
That's the flip side of all of this, I think.
Yeah.
People are mad about Bondi today and should be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When there are others, there, obviously, Bad Bunny, there's Chapel Rowan, there's so many people standing up and speaking out. We had amazing members of Congress at that hearing with Bondi, Ted Lieu and Jamie Raskin and
Jasmine.
Pramila, Congressman Pramila, Jayapal, so many people who were undaunted by the just stream of attacks and lies. So lots of heroes to celebrate. And we hope that you'll join us next week for the 5, 8.5 with Nadine Smith and me. And we hope you will join the original, the OG. 5, 8 this Friday with Greg and Stephanie. Come listen, come be inspired. Go to your Friday night hang and come back next Wednesday. We will resume regular programming of the 5 topics, 8 minutes with Nadine Smith. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
See you all later.